to another brand new video where we'll be creating more games on Scratch. So let's see what we're doing this week. In this project, you'll make a Scratch game in which you need to find a sprite that is hidden among a huge crowd of other characters. Click on the green flag, and once the curtain is up, try and find the sprite before your time runs out. What you will learn: how to create custom blocks that have input, how to use lists to store grid coordinates, and how to use loops to cycle over items in a list. So let's get to it. In order to create our lineup game, we're going to add costumes. So we're going to open a new Scratch project in the offline editor, and then we're going to add some costumes to the cat sprite. So you need to at least add in 40 different costumes for your sprite. It's best to select costumes from the people section, but if you want to, you can choose costumes from other sections as well. So we'll click in the costumes tab for our sprite 1. As you can see, we already have 2 costumes. So we'll click on the choose costume from library, and we can click on the people's category, and we can just find at least enough costumes, 40 to be exact. You can pick anyone you want, and if you want to select like the way I'm doing, you'll have to use the keyboard inputs of shift. So you'll hold down shift and then just start clicking on the sprites that you need, and when you want to scroll down, let go of shift and then scroll down and then hold down shift once again to select the other scripts at the bottom as well. Okay, so this should be at least 40. Scroll down a bit. All right. Okay. Let's click OK. Okay, so I have 39. Then I just can get another one. So the people. Let's scroll down a bit, and then here's the last one, 40. All right. So this is how you'll have 40 different costumes. So once you have your costumes, you can delete the default cat costumes if you want to, or you can just leave them there. I decide that I'm going to leave them there. So the next thing we need to do is create a grid. So you're going to create a grid of stamped costumes. So to do this, you need to know the X and Y coordinates of where each stamp should be placed. So the first thing we're going to do is create a new block called generate positions. And we're going to also need the block inputs, which are called number inputs, and call them rows and columns. Rows, columns. And then we'll click OK. So the values of these parameters will decide how many rows and columns your grid has. So now the next thing we need to do is create 2 lists and call one of them X positions and the other Y positions. Make a variable X positions, and not a variable, a list. So X position, X positions, another one, Y positions, and we can just put them together like this. All right, so inside your generate positions block, add blocks to delete all the items from both lists so that each time the game starts, the lists are empty. So we need the delete all. So 2 of them, and then we say delete all, and the first one will be Y position and the second one will be X position. Y position, X position. I can just increase this so that you guys can see. All right, here we go. Y positions, X positions. So now the next thing we need to do is create two variables and call one of them x position and the other y position. So a variable called x pos for x position and another one called y pos for y position. So now the x positions list should contain 10 numbers in total, and these should start at -200 and go up to 200. For now, the y positions list can just contain the number 150 10 times so that the grid only has one row. So we're going to start by adding code to the generate positions block to set the y pos variable to minus 150 and the x pos variable to minus 200. So this is the location of the first stamped sprite. So we're going to drag two of them. So we're going to set y position to minus 150 and we're going to set x position to minus 200. Okay, so y position minus 150, x position minus 200. Next thing we're going to do is add a repeat loop. So we go to control and drag out our repeat loop. So this repeat loop should run once for every column you want to have in the grid. So the generate positions block takes columns as an input. So you can use columns for the repeat loop. Columns, and you just put it there. Within the repeat loop, add the values of x pos and y pos into the lists. Then you need to increase the value of x pos by a little. So in order to do that, we're going to need these codes. So what we're going to do is we're going to have our define generate positions rows and columns, delete all of y positions, delete all of x positions, set y pos to minus 150, set x pos to minus 200, repeat columns. Then we're going to go to data and drag the add. All right, so add, and we're going to add here x pos right here. So add x pos to x position, add another one for y pos to y position. Then we're going to add change y position. All right, so it's going to not be y, it's going to be x. So we're going to change x position by, we'll go to operators and first get the minus, then we'll have the division. So it's going to be 400 in the first block, 400 divided by columns and then minus 1. Okay, so now the next step we need to do is to test the script. So to test the script, you need to call the custom block and provide with the number of columns you want in your grid. So we're going to add this code to our sprite. All right, generate positions block and say 1 and then 10. So now we click on the green flag to run your code. So we click the green flag. So remember, the y position should only be minus 150, but the x position should be different numbers. If it's like that, well done. If it's not, please rewind this video to check where you went wrong. Look at the video once again and see how to fix this solution. But the next step we need to do is now stamp a row. So far, you have 10 values in each of the two lists. So now stamp some costumes at the stage coordinates stored in the list. So we're going to create a new block and we're going to call it stamp sprite. It also needs two number inputs called rows and columns. And we click OK. Here we are. So the next step we need to do is now create a new variable called index. Index. So now you can get rid of these and the list as well. So we can just focus on index. So now the index variable is going to track the position in the lists so that your program is reading. To begin with, set index to 1 to fetch the first item of each list. So we're going to drag set index to 1. The stamp sprite block should stamp a sprite for each pair of coordinates in the list. To do this, the block needs a repeat loop that runs once for each column. So control repeat with columns. So now within the repeat loop, we're going to need the blocks to move the sprite to the index position in the we're going to need the move position so that the sprite can move into the X position and Y positions list. And then we're going to stamp the sprite. Then we're going to change the index by 1. Okay, so within the repeat loop, we need the go to X and Y block. So we go to motion and drag out our go to X and Y block. Then we're going to say item in the X value. So it's going to be go to X item 1 of X position. Item 1 of X position. But now we don't need just the 1. We need the index. So we drag out index and replace it with 1. So it's going to be item index of X position and item index for Y position. Then we're going to go to pen and stamp the sprites. Then we're going to go back to data and drag the change index by 1. So now to add, the next thing we need to do is add a clear block below the when green flag is clicked so that it clears the stage each time the game starts. Then add the stamp sprite block at the bottom of the when green flag clicked script so you can test your new code. So go to pen and drag out clear. All right, clear, generate position 1 to 10, go to more blocks, stamp sprites 1, 10, like this. So now click the green flag and you should see something like this. Okay, depending on what the custom sprite has, this is how you'll have your certain the rows stamped with your sprite. So now we need to change the costumes. So at the moment, your program stamps the same sprite's costume over and over, and the size of the costume is too large. So we're going to add code to the stamp sprites block to make the sprite a suitable size before the repeat loop starts. Then we're going to add a block inside the loop to switch the costume after the stamp block. So we'll have to go to looks and drag our change size to 40%. We have set index to 1. And now we need the next costume in between the stamp right here. And change index by 1. Okay. So when you run the script now, you should see something like this. Okay. Something like this. So when you run the script, your program cycles through all the costumes in order so that each costume does not show up in the same place every time the program runs. You should stamp the sprite in random places on the grid. So to do this, you need to follow this algorithm. Repeat until the list is empty, set index to a random number between 1 and the length of a list, move the sprite as you did before, delete the item at the index position from the Y positions list, and delete the item at the index position from the X positions list. So I understand that was a handful of words there. So what we are doing is we are saying that here we're going to drag the set index to 1 right inside of the repeat loop. Okay, now instead of 1, we're going to go to operators and have our pick random block. So it's going to pick a random block or random number between 1 to the length of X position. So length of X positions. We have our go to X item index of X position, Y item index of Y positions. Then we're going to need the delete. So let's go drag 2 of them, delete. Okay, so it's going to delete index, both of them, index of X position and of Y positions. Then it's going to stamp, have the next costume, and we just have to get rid of change index by 1. So now the next step we need to do is add rows. So now that you have the code to create a single row of stamped costumes, you should add, so if you click the green flag, all right, you should see something like this. Okay, green flag, something like this. See? Okay. So now that you have the code to create a single row of stamped costumes, we're going to go to our generate positions block, this one right here, and we're going to add another repeat loop that runs the number of times you give to the generate positions block as the row's input. So this means control repeat rows like this. Okay, and then we're going to have our set X position right here, set X position to minus 200. Oh, now I get it. There we go. So it's going to be like this. We put it in there and we put it in there like that. Then we're also going to add the change Y position. So here we go, change Y position by, go to operators, have the minus sign first, then the division, and we're going to have 300 here. 300 divided by rows minus 1. Okay, and then we're going to make sure you give the number of rows as an input to your blocks. All right, so we make sure here where it says generate positions, it will be 4 to 10. So it'll be 4 rows, 10 columns. And here by stamp sprite, it will be also 4 rows and 10 columns. So now you can run your code. Okay. So if you see something like this, you're doing good. So you won't get a neat grid of stamps. This is because right now the stamp sprite block only runs for the total number of columns. So we're going to change our stamp sprite script so that it repeats enough times to stamp the complete grid of sprites. So in order to do that, we're going to use an additional block. So now by stamp sprite, okay, so let me just scroll down. By this code, you see what we have here is we have the repeat columns and set index to pick random, all of this. So what we're going to do is here by the repeat, we're just going to add a multiplication. So it'll be rows multiplied by columns. Special technique. You click the green flag and it should completely do this. If you want to see properly, you can click the green flag and stamp like this. Okay. So now we need to hide the sprite. Now it's time to hide your sprite among the crowd of stamps. At the moment, the sprite overlaps one of the stamps. Okay, if you can find the one that overlaps the stamps, that is the one that we need. So this doesn't happen. Make your stamp loop run one time less than the rows. So over here, we're going to have the minus. So we're just going to move these two here, get the minus, and we're going to put this in the first block, and in the second block, -1. Okay. So if you run the script now, you can see that your sprite still overlaps with the stamp and there is a hole in your grid. Okay, green flag overlaps. So to finish this project off, go to the green flag selection of the script. Make sure here you have clear 4 to 10 for generate positions, 4 to 10 for the sprite, stamp sprite. So now we need to figure out which one we're going to be looking for in this case. So right here, we're going to say position motion, go to X and Y block, which will be 0 for both, 0, and here as well, 0. Then looks, go to front, set size to 100%, and then say find me for 2 seconds. All right, find me for 2 seconds, and then go back 1 layer, and then set size to 40%, and then go to X and Y position, which will be item. There we go. You don't have to do this. Just move this here. Okay, so it's going to be item 1 of X position and item 1. Oh, there we go. Item 1 of Y position. Then we're going to finish the game off by downloading a stage curtain. So we can look for a stage curtain here if we can find one. So we can scroll down in the curtains block and look for curtain. Right, it's not there. So what we're going to do is now go onto the internet and find a curtain, a stage curtain. All right, so now in order to input a downloaded folder or downloaded file into Scratch, we're going to click here where it says upload sprite from file, and then you're going to browse through and look for the picture that you have downloaded. Click on it and say open, and there you have it. There you have it. We can also increase the size of this by going to looks. All right, go to looks, say set size to 110, maybe 200. There we go, perfect. So set size to 200 is perfect. Then we're going to go to events. When green flag clicked, go to X, Y, which is 0, 0, set size to 200, and then show. Alright, then we're going to click on our sprite again. Right here, we're going to broadcast a message. Broadcast a message called curtain up. Curtain up. Oh, so there we go. Curtain up. Okay, curtain up. So when this curtain sprite receives this broadcast message, the sprite needs to move upwards for 10 seconds so that it looks like the curtain is raised to reveal the steps. Then the curtain should drop again, so the curtain sprite needs to move downwards. All right, so we're going to do this. So we're going to click on our curtain. Okay, so when I receive curtain up, go to front, wait 1 second, and then we're going to glide, which is in the motions block, glide 1 second to 0, which is for the X position, and the Y position will be 300. Then we're going to hide. Then we're going to set timer. Okay, we're going to set timer. So we're going to make a variable called timer to 30 seconds. Set timer. Just go and put it over here. Set timer. We can get rid of the index. Okay, we put the timer right there. Okay, so set timer to 10 seconds. And then repeat 10 times. Inside the repeat loop, we've got the wait 1 second. And then change timer by -1. Then it should show at the bottom. Show. And then glide 1 second, 0, 0. So the very last part is to let the player know if they've won. So when this sprite is clicked on your sprite, so this is a new code. So when this sprite is clicked, say you found me, shouldn't be for 2 seconds. It can just say you found me. All right, you found me, and then stop all. Okay, so you guys can now improve your game by having more costumes, choosing a backdrop, then making the costumes nearer to the top of the screen appear smaller so they seem farther away. You can also make the game run for several rounds and provide you with a score based on how long it takes you to complete 5 rounds. So obviously if we click show view full screen, okay, so it says find this one, so find me. So she's the one that's bending down there. Nope, that's the wrong way. Here we go. So it took me at least 5 seconds to find the costume that we were looking for. 5 seconds, you found me. And you guys can increase it by doing more rounds, a scoreboard, and all that. Thank you for your time. To book a one-on-one session online, visit www.pingacademy.co.za.